Hello everyone and welcome to a new tutorial where I'm going to show you how to deploy your Django REST Framework API project to Heroku. Heroku is a very popular platform, also free to use, and it's also highly scalable, which means it suits all type of projects. If you're building a prototype, learning or scaling your projects, taking it to another level, it's a good choice. And just a quick note about the code that you're about to see, the files, the folders. This is what we've created so far in the Django REST Framework series on this channel. So if you haven't checked it out, please do so. I promise you're gonna learn a lot of things there. And I want to thank whoever subscribed to my channel, whoever's supporting me. Thank you so much, guys. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and help me reach my goal and help me provide more useful content for everyone. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we are going to deploy our Django REST framework to one of the platforms that's very popular and easy to use, which is Heroku. And to do that, we need to do some configurations and add some files to our projects. So without further ado, let's start. So first thing first, let's start a new terminal and activate our virtual environment. And because the virtual environment folder is in the parent folder of our project folder, so I'm gonna just go back and then activate it from here. Scripts, activate, and then after that I'm just gonna go back to our project folder, which is my API, and inside here I need to initiate get, because we are going to use get to deploy our project to Heroku. So to do that, we just need to say or type get init, and that will initialize an empty Git repository in this folder. After that, we need to create a file inside our project folder, and I'll name it .get ignore. And inside here we need to specify the folders and files that we want Git to ignore when deploying to Heroku. So to do that, we need to add first the visual or VS Code folder here. So we just need to type .vs code, and underneath also we need to ignore the database, the SQLite database. So we can just simply say star.sqlite. And what else we need to ignore? We need to ignore some of the files inside each application we created, like the PYC files. So we need to add this one here as well, .pyc, and I think that's enough. If you have your virtual environment folder inside your project folder, then you need to add it here. So I think that's enough for git ignore. Now we can add the project files to and folders to Git. So we just need to say get add and dot to add all, and then we're gonna do our first commit. So git commit, and then we can name it first commit. That's fine, and that will add all the folders and files to to Git. After that, we need to hide our secret key, because if you look here, it's not recommended, or it's risky to deploy your project with an exposed secret key as you see here. It's just a plain text. So what we need to do is we need to use a library called Python decouple to hide the secret key. And maybe it's not only the secret key. If you have like an email password, if you have you're using AWS to store your files, you need to hide your key, AWS key and password. All that you can use with the Python decouple. So to do that, let's first install Python decouple, and we're gonna use pip for that. So pip install Python-decouple. So I already installed it. You guys can install it. And to use Python decouple, we can simply, before we import it, Python decouple uses a file called .env. So we need to create this file here, .env. Inside this file here, we need to store our keys or passwords. So I'm just going to copy this from here, or maybe cut it from here, because we don't need it inside our settings.py anymore. So I'm going to paste it here. So here I have the secret key and I have the debug. I'm going to save this inside this file and go back to settings. Inside settings, I need to import config. So from decouple, import config. And I'm going to use config to get the secret key. So I can basically type secret key equals config and then pass the secret key as a key. So I'll just type here secret key. Okay, and same thing goes for debug. So I can just type debug equals config, and I can either pass it as a key only, or I can give it let me type it first. Also, I can give it a default value. So I can just say, for example, default equals false. And then I can give it another argument, which is cast equals pool. So it's a boolean. So that's for the secret key and debug. Okay, so now we know that the secret key for our project is protected. The other thing we need to configure or change is the database URL. At the moment in the development environment or in our local host, we're using SQLite, okay, and it's within our directory. So we need to configure that for it to work on Heroku or online on other servers. So to do that, we need to use a library called Django database URL. So let's install it first. Pip install Django database URL. After we install Django database URL, we need to use it inside our settings.py. So let's import it first. So from Django database URL, import PaaS. Okay. So we need to use PaaS to point out the URL for the database. At the moment, the database is pointing to the main directory here and to the db.sqlite database here file. So what we need to do, we need to comment this out like this, and then after that we need to create something called default URL. Okay, so default database URL. So to do that, let's say default DB URL equals, and this will add first the SQLite. So we'll just type SQLite, and then after that we're just here building the URL for the database. So we use a plus sign, and then we're gonna add the directory of our project. So it's os.path.join, and then inside here we can use the base directory, which is base dir, and then the name of the database, okay, which is db.sqlite. Okay, 3. So if you look here, this is the base directory, okay, which points to the directory of our project. So after we create the default database URL, we need to add the database variable. So we simply type database equals, and this will be an object, and this object has a key default, and the value will be the config if we're storing our database in our in the env file here. So let's add it just in case you guys want to store it in future. So we can simply say config parentheses and type database URL here, URL, sorry, and we need to give it a default value, which is the default URL or default database URL, and then we can give it a cast of we can choose the cast to be PaaS. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to configure your database. So let's save this. And after configuring the database, we need to handle the static files. And to do that, we need to use a library called Django static. Okay, so let's install this library. Pip install Django static. Okay, so after installing Django static, we need to go to the WSGI file here, and then inside the WSGI file we need to import from let's type it first, from Django static import cling. Okay, we need to use cling. We need to wrap our application or WSGI application with cling. So we can add it here, and that will handle static files for us. One more thing we need to add for the static files to work is to go to settings and add a static root. Okay, so at the moment we have a static URL. We need to add static root, and this equal to we need to specify the directory of the static files. So what we can do is os.path, sorry, it's capital letter, os.path.join, and then inside here we use the base directory, and then the name of the folder will be static files. Okay, so that should do it. So let's save this now, and then the next step is to create requirements.txt file. Okay, and inside the requirements.txt file we'll store all the libraries that we used in our project. So when Heroku looks at our folder or our project, look for the requirements.txt file in order to know what packages and libraries need to be installed. And to do that, first we need to create requirements-dev txt file, and that will include all the packages that we needed for development. So let's simply type pip freeze, and then we write the name of the file, which is requirements-dev.txt. And as you see here, that generated requirements.dev.txt, and if we open it, we can see all the packages that we used in our project. So the next step is to create another file and name it requirements.txt. So the server will look at this file, not at this file. This file is for our development environment, and this file is where Heroku will look for this file, requirements.txt. So inside requirements.txt, we need to add the server that we're going to use, or Heroku will use, which is a G-unicorn. Okay, so why we separated them? We separated them because we don't want to add the G-unicorn server, which is going to be used only by Heroku, to our requirements.dev file, because this requirements.dev is for development, and we don't need the G-unicorn here. So that's why we created another file, and inside here we're going to implement all the requirements-dev content plus the G-unicorn. So in order to do that, we're going to type here -r to read the requirements-dev content. Okay, and underneath we need to add the G-unicorn. Okay, so I'm going to add that underneath. Okay, also here we can add the packages and maybe dependencies that also needed in the deployment stage. Okay, so let's save this. The next thing we need to do is create a proc file inside our project folder, and please make sure it's a capital P. Okay, and inside the proc file we need to specify the web server, which is the G-unicorn, and add the name of our project to it. So we'll simply say web, and we'll add G-unicorn, and after that we'll add the name or the directory for our WSGI folder, which is my API.WSGI. In your case, if you're creating another project, another API name, you need to replace this my API with the name of your main project. Okay, and after that we need to add the log file, and space dash. Okay, so let's save this for the Proc file. After that, we need to create another file called runtime, and inside this file we will specify the version of Python that we are using. So at the moment we're using Python 3.7, so we can specify here the version of Python by typing Python dash 3.7.10. And the reason why I used 3.7.10 because there are specific releases of Python that are supported on Heroku. So to verify that, or to know what is supported, you can simply go to the website, or their website, and then if you go to Heroku Python support, you can see that the versions or the releases of Python that are supported by Heroku. So you can see here you have a 2.7.18, 3.6, 13, 7, 10, 8, 8, and 9, 2. Also, it depends on what do you use. You can simply change the Python version inside your runtime file. Okay. The next thing, after we created all these folders, files, and changed the configuration, we need to go to Heroku and create an application there. So I'm going to go to Heroku. You can, if you don't have an account, you can create an account. It's free. And then after you create an account, you'll find yourself inside this dashboard where you can add new or create new projects. So I'm going to go here for new, create a new app, and we have to give it a name. So you can name it anything you want. I'm just going to name it Django test dash API. Okay, and I can see it's available. I can simply go create an app, and as you see here, the app was created for me. And inside deploy, we have to go to deploy. Inside deploy, I can specify the way I want to deploy my application or my project to Heroku. One of them is through Git, and that will require a Heroku CLI to be installed. The other way is using GitHub or using containers. So in this example, we're using Git for simplicity, and for that we need to install or download Heroku CLI. So you can just simply click on Heroku CLI, choose your, it depends on your operating system, if you're using Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, install the Heroku CLI, and then simply after that we can use it inside our project. So I'm going to go back here to my app, and before starting or before we could use Heroku CLI, we need to log in, okay, using Heroku Login. So I'm going to copy this and go to the terminal. Inside here, I'll just need to clear this and then type Heroku Login, and it'll ask me to open this in the browser. So press enter, it opens in the browser, and inside here I can log in. So I've already logged in before, that's why it says logged in. For you guys, if it's your first time, it's going to ask you for your email and password. You enter them and log in. After that, you close the browser and you find yourself logged in here. Okay. After that, let's go back to our application, and you can see that there are some instructions here on how to use Git to push or to deploy your project. So first, Git init, which we already did. So after that, we need to use Heroku CLI to get access to the app repository. So let's copy this line here, go to the terminal. We already did Git init, we already initialized it, but if you didn't, you should do it. And then we can type Heroku git remote, and if you notice here, this is the API, the app name that we created on Heroku. We press enter and wait for it to finish. After that, we need to add all the files, then commit, then we can push our project to the Heroku master branch. Okay, so to do that, first I'm going to type git add dot to add all the files that we have, and then git commit, and then let's name this first deploy, and then enter. After that, we need to disable the collect static, and that's sometimes you need it, sometimes you don't, but from my experience it's better if you disable it and do it manually, because sometimes it gives error on first deploy. So to do that, I'm just gonna type Heroku config, and I want to set disable collect statics equals 1. So I'm going to do that, disable collect static equals 1. Okay, after doing this, now I need to push my project to Heroku repository. So what I need to do is, if I go here, look, I can use the git push Heroku master, and then as you see here, it's pushing it pushed my project to Heroku, and now it's installing packages that I have for my project. And as you see, guys, it says deployed to Heroku, and then verifying deploy done. So the next step, or the next thing I need to do, is run the migrate to create all the necessary tables on Heroku database. So to do that, I'm just going to type Heroku, okay, small letter, Heroku run python manage .py migrate, and now the migrate will start. And as you notice, any command that I need to run on the server or Heroku server for my project, it needs to start with Heroku. So I can see here I got an error. It says please supply engine value, check settings documentation for more details. So I think I have I did some mistakes here configuring the database. So let's check here if everything is alright. So I think I changed instead of using PaaS, I changed it to I created an alias which is dp URL, and I added I think a comma here to make sure everything is alright. Saved it, and then let's try again. Just any change you need, if you want to deploy, you need to add and then commit again and then deploy. Or let's say push. So I'm gonna push the files again to Heroku, and then I'm gonna try to run the migration. So I'll wait for it to finish. And I can see deployed to Heroku. Now after that says verifying done, then I'm going to try to run the migrate again. So I'm just going to run the migrate now. And wait for it to connect. And as you see now, it's running the migrate. So it's building all the database with the tables as we configured or programmed. And as the migrate is done, now I can create a super user on the server or on Heroku by simply typing Heroku run python manage.py create super user. Okay, so I'm going to choose a name for it and a password, and then we're going to go to Heroku, try to access everything from the browser. Okay, so everything should be online. Okay, let me type the name. Let's say admin, email admin@myapi.com, for example, and I'll choose a password and confirm the password. And super user created successfully. One more thing we need to add before we access our project or our API online is we need to add the new domain to allowed hosts. So to do that, I'm just going to go to the Heroku app, and inside here, if I go to settings, this will be my domain. Okay, if I click this domain now, I try to access it, it'll tell me that invalid HTTP host header. because this is not included in the allowed hosts. So I'm going to copy this and go to settings and add this to the allowed hosts list. So I'm going to paste it here, save, and then I'm just going to push again our files to the server. I can commit, and I can give this commit a name, says update allowed hosts, and then I can perform push to Heroku, and after that I should be able to access the API and then get to the admin panel. So now that the deploy is done, I need to go here and refresh this page, and as you see, I have access to my API. Okay, so if I want to go to the admin panel, just type admin, and as you see here, my API is running online. I have the login for the admin, so I'm going to type admin and then the password. And as you see now, I have access to all the tables and models that I already have in my project, and I can edit them. I can add new data, remove data, delete data. I can do whatever I could do in my local host. So as you see, guys, we managed to deploy our API in just a few steps, and it was easy and was like kind of straightforward, because Heroku is one of the easiest ways to deploy and test your projects. And there are many settings and configurations that you can use with Heroku, and I highly recommend that you go through them and read the documentations and learn more about it, because it's very handy and simple and easy to use. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial. I hope it was useful. If you have any questions, or if you have any issues with deploying to Heroku, just leave your question in the comments, and I'll help you with that. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial. Hope you learned something new, and if so, please hit the like button. That helps the channel. And if you're looking forward for more content like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. And until the next one.